Welcome to Session 3 of Reclamation, a series for trauma survivors as a whole, but especially individuals that are survivors of sexual trauma. And in this class today, we'll be exploring our voice and what our voice carries, which is our story, our lived experiences, our current experience, and what we hope to be our future experiences. And so in this class, we'll have a few opportunities to explore using our physical vocal cords, and especially in cases of sexual trauma, there's this desire for others to know what happened, to be given the details of something that they may or may not have any business having. And so as an invitation to you in this class, I invite you to explore whatever it means to you to tap into your voice and using it as an expression of your lived experiences, your story, whether that be actual words or just sounds, because there's many ways that we can use our voice and our breath that carries our voice. So, and also a gentle reminder that your story is yours. You don't owe it to anybody. It is for you. And whatever your story and lived experiences may be, I offer you this affirmation for our class today. And that is, I am not defined by what happened. I am the author of my story. And so, however that resonates with you, if it's helpful, or maybe if you prefer to just shorten it into, I am the author of my story, I am the owner of my story, I welcome you to adjust it to your needs. And so with that, I welcome you to find a comfortable seat that is supportive to your body in this particular moment. I'm sitting on a blanket with my hips just a little bit lifted. And so if you'd like to join me, you can. If having your legs crossed is not comfortable, then you can extend your legs out, or perhaps even bring the soles of your feet together, whatever works for you today. And also utilizing a blanket as always, if this feels welcome. So you could drape it over your body in any way. And as you begin to set up, I welcome you to allow this class to continue to be not just an exploration of your voice, but also continuing to explore your choices and explore the sensations of your body and how they help you make choices. Because we make choices based on what we're feeling or what we'd like to feel. So with that, if you are in your seat, we can begin by simply tuning in to our bodies. You might decide to close your eyes, or you might decide to leave them open. You might begin to notice how you're sitting. How does it feel to sit like this? Does it serve you in this moment? And if you need to make any changes to better support yourself, you are free to make those changes. You are free to make those choices for your body. You might even take a short scan of your body, maybe starting in your seat and working your way throughout the rest of your limbs and torso, neck and head. Noticing whatever is present for you. And can we take this snapshot, this awareness, without judgment. Maybe with a little bit of compassion. You might shift your awareness to your natural breath. Just observing your inhales and exhales moving at their own pace. You don't have to change your breath. There's no need to correct it. Your breath will naturally change and alter itself to suit the needs of the moment. And so, for our first opportunity to explore our voice or a version of it, I welcome you into practicing humming breath with me. And this humming breath is exactly as it sounds. We are simply humming. But instead of it being this humming that comes from your head, as in higher pitched, maybe even like sending it up into your nose or your head. Instead, I invite you to allow the hum to come from low or down in your chest. And you might even try both and notice the difference, ending with the one in your chest. And so there's a difference between humming higher and humming lower. And so whichever one you choose today, you are completely welcome to decide. However, I do encourage you to explore the hum that resides in your chest and your heart space. Maybe even placing a hand over your heart as we just take a few easeful breaths in and out. And with your next exhale, you might begin to just simply hum. Allowing your breath to work at its own pace, continuing to hum with each exhale. And if at any point this pranayama practice, this breathwork practice, does not serve you, I welcome you to release it at any time. And if it is serving you, then you can continue it at your own pace, in your own way. It doesn't need to sound pretty. It's okay if your voice wobbles or cracks. We'll take another 5 rounds of humming breath, continuing at your own natural breath pace, knowing that as you hum here, this is an expression of your voice. And you might even tune into the vibration happening in your chest as you hum, or maybe you feel it more in your throat. Wherever you feel it the most, you might even just gently place your hand over this area of your body, feeling the natural vibration that you are creating. As we start to finish up our last round of humming breath, And you might choose to continue this breath if it is continuing to serve you, or if you're ready to release it, you might simply release the humming and just return to your natural breath, taking a few moments here to simply observe what effects are present after this humming breath. And if you're ready to move on, I invite you to roll the shoulders up towards the ears and allow them to fall back away. Taking a few shoulder rolls at your own pace, maybe even exploring taking one shoulder at a time. You might even decide to move into your neck in any way that feels organic to you. Taking another 1 or 2 rounds of breath here. And with your next inhale, I invite you to bring your head back to center. And after your exhale and following with your next breath in, you might even allow your spine to float up towards the sky, becoming a little bit taller, taking a little bit more space. And here's a mudra, a hand gesture that we have not explored before in Soma, but is very grounding, it's very earthing. It's actually called the Bu mudra, or earth hand gesture. And so with your 2 fingers, your 2 peace fingers, but together, you might allow your fingers to just come down towards the earth on either side, just touching your mat lightly. And if it feels welcome to leave your hands here in this gesture, then you might decide to inhale, lengthen the spine up just a little bit more. And as you exhale, you could bring maybe your right ear toward your right shoulder. You could always start on the left side. It doesn't matter. This is just the side I start on. Stretching the open side of your neck as our fingers are here in this gesture toward the earth, this grounding gesture. And you might choose to stay here for another 2 rounds of breath. And for those 2 rounds of breath, might you tune into the open side of your neck, feeling the sensation of this movement. And after your second breath, if you're ready to, I'll meet you back at center as we inhale the head back to center. And as we exhale, you might take the head to the other side. And again, if this hand gesture, having the fingertips down toward the earth, does not serve you, you could choose to release it. But if it is serving you, even if it's just a subtle energetic difference, then you might continue as we explore this lateral neck stretch for the next 2 rounds of breath. And with your next inhale, if you're ready to come back up to center, maybe you release the hand gesture, the mudra, perhaps even rolling into your shoulders, if that feels welcome, and noticing how your neck feels. Just for 1 breath, feeling whatever you feel. And if you're ready to move on with me, you could inhale and reach your arms up towards the sky, big stretch here. And with your exhale, you could drop your elbows and create cactus arms or goalpost arms. And here we'll start to work with our breath as we move with our spine, as we inhale and draw the heart space forward. And as you exhale, you could begin to round the spine forward and close your arms together like a book. You could even tuck the tailbone a little bit here as you curl the chin in towards the spine. Breathing in to open whenever you're ready for it. Drawing the spine forward as much as you want. And exhale to close. Continuing to move at your own pace, exploring this range of motion in your spine, in your torso. And we'll take another 2 rounds of breath. So 2 inhales, 2 exhales. You might even inhale and say to yourself, I am not defined by what happened. Exhale, I am the author of my story. Good. So, as we find completion here, coming back to center. And as you exhale, still with cactus or goalpost arms, you might explore just dipping over to one side. Nice side stretch here. If you feel like you need some support, you could place your bottom hand on the floor. Inhale back to center. Exhale, other side. Maybe you keep your arms hovering. Maybe you place your bottom hand on the floor. There's no right or wrong here. And all right, back up to center whenever you get there. Releasing your arms and returning to the shoulders and the neck if it feels welcome. For just one more breath. And I invite you to join me in a tabletop shape. If your floor is hard, like mine is, then it might benefit you to have a blanket for your knees. Also, we'll begin to move toward needing some blocks here in just a little bit. And so if you have at least one block handy, that could be helpful. Okay, so setting up your space as needed, and I'll meet you in a tabletop. And here, if it feels a little bit vulnerable or a little bit exposed, you might use a second blanket to cover up your hips and your low back area. And so I'll just show you what that might look like. And so this is one option. If you feel that the blanket isn't necessary for you, or if it even gets in the way, then you don't have to use it. You can move it to the side. So there's no right or wrong. But as you come into your tabletop shape, I welcome you to take a few organic movements. And organic meaning natural, intuitive, whatever feels welcome to your body. And you might even place your knees about hip distance apart, somewhere underneath the hips, give or take, and the hands roughly underneath the shoulders. And we'll begin to move through some Tibetan sun salutations, which we'll be exploring some low lunges, and it'll be one breath per movement is the traditional way to take the sun salutation. However, if you want to move slower, if your body is asking for longer time in these shapes, you can set your own pace. You don't have to take one breath per movement if that does not serve you today. So from this tabletop, we'll take a version of child's pose, which is just sending the hips back toward the heels. And you could either keep your gaze lifted to look at your hands, or you could release your forehead down to the mat. Just taking a breath here and letting it go. And with your next inhale, you might start to shift yourself forward into tabletop. With your exhale, you could bring your right foot forward towards your right hand, maybe even using your right hand to help your foot forward. With your inhale, you could decide to keep your hands down on the earth, or you could decide to inhale and lift into a low lunge. And with your exhale here, I invite you to take a lion's breath. And if you haven't taken a lion's breath before, it is a very powerful, energizing, loud breath. And so for this first round, I'll just show you. And again, it's optional. You don't have to do it, but if you want to, this is another opportunity of how we can explore our voice today. And it would be an inhale. We'll be here in low lunge. And with your exhale, you could drop your arms down into cactus and sticking your tongue out and big breath out with a that's a lion's breath. So we'll breathe in together. Exhale. Inhale, reaching the arms right back up. And then exhale to bring the hands down. Inhale, send the right leg back. And exhale, settling back into a version of child's pose. And we'll take the next side. Inhaling forward into tabletop. Exhale, left foot could come forward this time into a low lunge. Exhale, option to rise up. Breathing in. Lion's breath here, optional. Inhale, arms can reach. Exhale, hands could come down to the earth. Inhale, descend the left foot back. Exhale to revisit your child's shape. I welcome you to take this one more time on each side. Inhaling forward into tabletop. Exhale, right foot can step forward, maybe even using your hand to help. And let's inhale and rise, if you choose to rise. Exhale, lion's breath. Inhale. Exhale to lower back down to the earth. Let's send the right foot back, breathing in. And if you're ready, you could exhale, send the hips back. And we'll take our last one here, breathing in and shifting forward to tabletop. Exhale, left foot can find its way forward. Inhale to lift up if you desire. Exhale, optional lion's breath. Inhaling the arms up. Exhale, hands can come down. Inhale, left leg moves back. Exhale, your version of child's shape. So perhaps as we just take a little bit of a break here, maybe your forehead rests on the floor, or if you prefer to leave your gaze up, you could stack your fists on top of one another and rest your chin. And we'll take about 3 or 4 rounds of breath here, or as long as you want. Tuning in, what does it feel like to use your voice without even needing to verbalize words, and instead just connecting with sound, with breath, with your vocal cords, allowing yourself to make sound, intentional music with your throat that doesn't even need to sound like
contemporary music. To take up space with your voice, to allow yourself to be heard. What does that feel like in your body in this moment? As we finish up our last round of breath here, I invite you to either out loud or in the privacy of your own heart, repeat, I am the author of my story. And if you're ready, you could begin to inhale and lift your gaze and shift yourself forward into tabletop. And here, it will be helpful to have some blocks nearby. Just one really is all you need. And so we don't need it right this second, but we will need it close. And if you don't have a block, that's okay. It's not required. And so with your next inhale, I invite you to draw your right foot up, coming into a low lunge. And so with your right foot forward, I mean, you really could start on your left side too. It's just, it gets tricky if I don't give the clear direction. So you could always choose to start on your left side, but just so you know where I'm at. So with your right foot forward in a low lunge, you might begin to just feel into your body. Now that we've kind of visited this shape a few times, we can just take a moment to feel, maybe even move into it, kind of wiggle around a little bit. No right or wrong. Any way that feels welcome to you. Or you might even enjoy the stillness. And we have an opportunity here to explore tucking your back toes and lengthening through your back leg. And here, if blocks are helpful to raise the floor to meet your hands, that is an option. So we're still in a low lunge, but it is different. And so can you feel your back leg firing up its muscles, really engaging? And you might choose to stay right here, or you might decide to start walking your body over toward the left as your right foot and your back foot pivot to the left as well as we come into a half squat. Now, your left leg, your back leg, your toes might come up off of the floor. And here, you might even place a hand on your left leg to feel the engagement of your muscles. Now here we have our block. An option is to take one block and literally sit on it. It's going to be more toward the right of your body, give or take, depending on how it feels for you. But you could use this block to sit on. Your second block, you could always place it in front of you as an anchor for your hands, or you can just set it to the side and bring your hands to the earth. So here's option one. Breathing in, breathing out. If stillness does not serve you, you could choose movement. So with your hands walking on the floor, you could even press through your right leg and come onto the left side. Half squat on the left side. You might use your hands on the floor to anchor you as you rock back and forth between sides, or you might choose to continue to hang out on the right side, maybe utilizing your block, and feeling into your body. And we'll be here wherever you're at, whether you're moving or in stillness, for the next 1 to 2 rounds of breath. I know that this shape could be very welcoming or very uncomfortable, and so I invite you to choose for yourself, for your body, what is supportive to you right now. Does this shape feel challenging but welcome?
Or does it feel uncomfortable and that you would prefer not to be in it? And so the choice is yours. There's no judgment either way. Okay. If the block is underneath you, we're going to remove the block and set it over to the left because we're going to need it on the other side. And then pressing yourself up, so hands on the floor to stabilize you, and start pivoting over to your left leg. So now we're on the other side. Same shape as last time, but this time let's take a moment and you could release the right knee to the floor. And you might even use your block to rest your hands. And we'll just take a moment, just like we did on the other side, to feel into this low lunge. One more breath here. Maybe it's stillness, maybe it's movement, but there's no agenda. The only thing we're doing here is just feeling what we feel, exploring the body. Okay, if you're ready to tuck the back toes and lift off your back knee, engaging your back muscles, really feeling the strength of your body here. You could take a moment to do that. Maybe even wiggling back and forth, shifting back and forth. Okay. And then this time, you could start to shift your body to the right. I'm going to actually turn around so that you can see me from a different angle. So you can start shifting your body to the right. And your toes come with you if you choose the half squat on this side. Your right toes can reach up towards the sky if you want. Maybe you utilize your block underneath you. Or if you don't have a block, you don't have to use one. That's okay too. And so tuning into your body. Noticing here if your spine is really rounded forward and collapsed, you might use your hands on the floor to lengthen through the spine, even if it's just a little bit, and let your heart space come forward. Maybe exploring this action here. What does that feel like in your body? And again, you could find movement, maybe coming back and forth, or you could find stillness, resting on the left side, just exploring as we take our last breath here. Ending on the left side if you found movement. And with your next breath, you could bring your hands in front of you into the floor and press yourself up. So we are now in kind of like, it's called Prasarita, but it's kind of like a big down dog, just really wide. And here, our toes are facing forward, maybe even pigeon-toeing in a little bit, just to create some space for our hip flexors. And our hands are on the floor. And if this shape feels, again, kind of exposing or vulnerable, you might utilize the blanket over your hips, or you might turn so that your hips are pointed toward a wall, if that helps provide a little bit more stability. And so option here to leave your hands rested on the earth, or if you want, you could begin to bend into your elbows, maybe coming down onto the elbows if that feels welcome to your body. You could also reach for your feet. So you have lots of options. And as always, you can come onto your hands. If your hands feel like there's not enough room to reach the floor, you could utilize a block here underneath your hands. And so wherever you're at, I invite you to be here for the next 2 rounds of breath. Feeling what you feel. Knowing that you can release this shape at any time. No permission needed. You know your body best. And with your next inhale, if you aren't already, you might press into the hands and bring your chest lifted, and then walking your hands over to the front of your mat, releasing your back leg down and sending your front leg to the back. So we end up in a tabletop. Option here to take a child's pose, maybe taking your knees a little bit wider, toes can touch back behind you or thereabouts. And then you could start to send your hips back toward your heels, resting either your forehead on the floor or maybe stacking your fists underneath your chin or underneath your forehead, and resting here for a moment. I invite you to bring some awareness into your hips and your legs, even your lower back, and feeling what kind of sensations are present there. Does this shape, now that we've been here in this child's pose a few times, does this time feel a little bit different than the previous few times towards the beginning of class? And can you notice your breath and how it might have changed after taking some big movements? Is your breath a little bit deeper, perhaps a little bit faster? Maybe it's starting to slow down at this point after picking up. And starting to find a little bit of movement here, maybe gently rocking from side to side. Perhaps your forehead rolls from side to side on your mat. Maybe your hips move a little bit. Maybe your shoulders. And you could even start rocking up into a tabletop. Perhaps your knees adjust to be underneath your hips, give or take. Feeling into your body. And as we begin to slow the class down, starting to find some deeper shapes with longer holds, I invite you to bring your left knee to the center of your mat. So it's, rather than being underneath your left hip, it's moved more to the midline of your body. And then you could extend your right leg out. And then keeping your left knee where it is, you could begin to take your right foot and trace it over to the left. So it's kind of coming at an angle. And it's like you're sitting in a chair when you cross your legs. You could bend your right knee, and you might have to adjust any folds of the body. And so if so, you can explore that as needed. Sometimes it feels like my quads get a little bit locked up and I have to kind of help them along with my hands. And so with your right leg crossed right behind your left, both knees have met the earth. Now, if you look back at your feet, if they are making a very shallow V, maybe they're kind of even touching, you might explore taking your ankles out, making a really wide V to the opposite ends of the mat. And then here you could begin to rock back and forth noticing where you feel the stretch in your body. And as you rock back, your left knee might even come up off of the mat, and that's okay. It doesn't have to stay connected. Neither of your knees have to stay connected to the earth at this point. So you might choose to continue rocking here, or you might decide to sit back on your glutes. And as you sit back on your glutes, you might even notice that your calf, your left calf, kind of gets in the way. And so with your hands, you could even move the flesh of your calf away, and you can adjust your quads. You can adjust the cross of your legs as we come into cow face pose. Now, if coming into this seated version of cow face is like not happening today, or like my body does not want to be here, that's okay. You could continue to explore the tabletop version, maybe continuing to rock back and forth in and out of it. And so if you are here in the seated version, a cow face, you can adjust the flesh of your glutes, your quads, and your calves as needed, and your feet as well. And then bring some awareness to your spine. Notice here if you are slumped at all, curling in toward yourself, and if so, you might explore taking a breath in and unraveling the spine up and open, followed by the neck. Your hands might rest on your legs, or you might even return to the Bu Mudra, the earth hand gesture with your peace fingers together and just touching the earth here. I invite you to explore this shape for the next 4 to 5 rounds of breath, knowing that you can leave this shape at any time, or you could stay longer in this shape. This is a very big hip opener. So I please ask you to just be gentle with yourself here. Our hips hold so much. Challenging does not always mean triggering or bad or uncomfortable. We can be challenged. We can be even slightly physical or physically uncomfortable in a positive way, in a beneficial way. And the opportunity here is to explore, is that what we're experiencing? Are we experiencing a beneficial discomfort, a beneficial challenge of within that discomfort that invites us to go a little bit deeper and to explore this sensation? Or are we experiencing an alarming discomfort that is actually asking us to exit this shape and maybe revisit it at a later date? And only you know the answer to that. Only you are in your body. And so as we finish this breath here, if you are in the seated shape, you might start to rock back forward on your hands and unravel your legs, starting with the right leg and moving through the left. And here we can take a few moments to just maybe stretch the legs out. Maybe even taking a few ankle rolls.
You might even bend your knee and take a big hip roll in either direction. And then we'll take the next side. So this time, if you're following the side that I'm on, we are on the right side. So the right knee can come to the center line of the body. And if you're ready, you could extend the left leg. I'm actually going to turn my body so that you can see me from a different angle compared to last time. And then your left foot can cross all the way over to the right. Like you're sitting in a chair, your left knee can come down onto your mat. And the feet and the ankles can kind of splay out nice and wide to the opposite ends of your mat. And then coming either from this rocking motion, keeping your hands on the earth in front of you, maybe rocking back and kind of exploring what's present here on this side of my body. How is it different than the previous side? And what do I need here? What feels welcome? And you might stay here. You might stay in this rocking motion. You might stay, even if you want to find stillness, you might stay kind of in this hover where your hips aren't totally on the floor, but they're somewhere in between. That might be where you are today. Or you might find the seated version of this shape and adjusting the flesh of your legs as needed. As you come into this seat of your choice. And this side of your body could feel totally different than the previous side of your body. And that's honestly to be expected because we do not use the two sides of our bodies the same. We use them differently. My teachers say that the two sides of the body are siblings, not twins. So option here, if you are in the seated version, you might revisit the earth mudra, very grounding hand gesture. Or you might choose to leave your hands on your legs, whatever feels welcome. And here I invite you to tune into your heart space, noticing the orientation of your spine. And if it feels safe, you might inhale and unravel the spine, allowing the heart to shine forward. Perhaps using the next 4 or 5 breaths that will be in this shape, using those breaths to bring our affirmation to the front of our minds. I am not defined by what happened. I am the author of my story. I am the author of my story. And it might be helpful to say those words out loud as you are in the privacy of your own space, or you might just repeat them internally.
Last breath in and out. And if you're ready to leave this shape, if you're in the seated version, you could shift yourself forward, unravel your left leg first and then your right. And again, revisiting any relieving expressions here. So anything that allows you to kind of ease into your hips, your ankles, your spine. And when you are ready, I invite you to come into a shape of your choice. I'm going to take a seated shape. However, you could choose even to set up for Shavasana, for our final resting time. And so if you want to set up, we're going to take a, just to let you know what we'll be doing so that you know what's going to work best for you. We're going to explore a mantra, so a mantra is a sacred phrase meant to evoke a certain energetic quality throughout our minds and our bodies. And we'll be exploring that, and at the same time as exploring a hand gesture that we'll use with the mantra. And so you can do this from a seated shape. You could also do this from laying down. So it really doesn't matter. And then we'll immediately after that, we'll move into a final time of resting. And so if you know that you're gonna wanna lay on your back or your stomach, whatever works, or maybe even legs up the wall to finish out our session, you could even set up for that now. And so taking a moment to arrive. And wherever you are, if you'd like to join me for this hand gesture that is called Nyasa, you might have one or both hands available to you. I like to do it just with my dominant hand. And we'll be exploring the mantra So Hum, which translates into that I am. And it's not a that I am as in I am a woman, I am a partner, I am all of these things, all these roles that we have for ourselves. So it's less about, in fact, it's not at all about what we are in the fulfilling of external roles, and instead it is about what we are at the core of ourselves, what we are before those roles, before the story and the experiences, before the past and the present and what may be in the future. It is the core of who you are, the reminder that without all of those external experiences or roles or things or responsibilities, we are me. We are you. We are the very core of ourselves. That I am. So hum. And I invite you, if you're comfortable, exploring this mantra out loud. And if you're not comfortable with that, you can explore it internally as well, just in the privacy of your own mind. And so what this looks like, these two practices together, is taking one or both hands, and I'm gonna hold my hand up so that you can see what I'm doing. But ideally, we would be resting our hand maybe on your leg or the floor, wherever you're at. And so we'll bring the thumb at the base of the index finger. And as you breathe in, you could repeat externally or internally, so, tracing your thumb up to the point of your index finger. And as you exhale, you slide your thumb back down to the base, hum. And then we move to the middle finger, so, gliding the thumb up, breathing in, hum, exhale, gliding the thumb back down, moving to your ring finger, and so forth. So breathing in, hum, breathing out, and so forth. And there's no need to change your breath. There's no need to adjust your breath rate. Whatever your breath is naturally doing, I invite you to stay with that. And so I'm going to say this mantra out loud. We'll take 2 rounds, and so that means there will be 10 times. We'll go through the hand twice. So 10 times. Or sorry, rather 8 actually, because we're only doing our 4 fingers. So 8 rounds. So we'll take 1 easeful breath in and out. If you'd like to join me. And breathing in, we'll begin. So, hum. 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 Last one. So, hum. Ending on your pinky finger. And if this practice is continuing to support you, you might continue it. Or if you choose to release it, that is also an option. And if you did release it, you might pause here and just simply notice the effect. That I am. So hum. You are not what happened in the past. You are not defined by those experiences. You are not defined by any experience, whether good or bad, truly, as this mantra reminds us. You exist as a whole being. The core of who you are is whole, no matter what. And so as we begin to move into our time of quiet rest, I invite you to one more time just repeat to yourself, I am the author of my story. The author being the core of who you are, that is not swayed by any external events or happenings, any desires or passions or dislikes. The core of who you are is whole and unchanging. That I am. That is the author of your story. And if you are not already in the shape that you'd like to rest in, I invite you to find that shape now, perhaps lying on your back or your stomach. And you might even choose to lay on your side or to stay seated. And we'll be here for the next 1 to 2 minutes, and I'll be quiet, and I'll just let you know when that time is complete. if you are continuing to enjoy this time of rest, or maybe it feels like you just settled in, there is no rush to move out of it. And if you do feel ready to move out of this time and complete this session, I invite you to add some movement back in your body and take your time coming back up into a seated shape if you're not already here. And if you'd like, you might join me with your hands at heart center. Perhaps joining in with one collective breath as we start with an exhale out. And we'll breathe in together. Thank you for joining me in this class today. I welcome any questions that you may have. Please feel free to email me or comment on the video below. I hope that you feel safe, connected, and at home in your body. Thank you.